Welcome. You have found the show we call Real Men Don't Cry, or Do They? This is a podcast for men, and on this show, we will hear real-life stories from men about how they have navigated the complexities of being a man in this modern day. We are going to look at the boys don't cry way of thinking and how that has influenced them and how they have risen above societal pressures to be true to themselves. The focus of this show is men's real-world experiences, not just ideas and theories. I hope that you will learn from what they have discovered and use it in your life as well. Let's get into today's show. Hello, welcome to another episode of Real Men Don't Cry, or Do They? I am Brandon Archer, and today's guest, as many of the guests that I'm finding, come about from other people I know. And if you've listened to the podcast before, I had Jason Evans on, who does Shadow and Lights Project. Fantastic platform on Instagram of men sharing their stories. And after I had him on, I'm like, wait a minute, Jason's doing this very similar mission to me on giving a place for men to share. So I started scrolling through, and this guest just popped out to me. I'm like, got to talk to this guy if he's willing to. Sent him a message and he said yes. So I'm super honored that he has given us some of his time, and I'm excited for this conversation. Risto Duggan, thanks so much for coming on the show.
No problem. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, I am too. Maybe just give a Cole's Notes 30-second, 60-second introduction of who you are, where you are, what you do.
Okay. I'm a yoga teacher in Vancouver, BC, and I've been teaching for, I guess it's getting close to 18 years now. Before that, I was a pretty high-level athlete in a few different sports, and I played university basketball, and then I played pro beach volleyball, and then my friend took me snowboarding one night in Ontario, and the funny thing is, I hated winter. I lived in Ontario and I played basketball and volleyball as much as I possibly could. And I was always inside all the time. And in the summertime, because of the ridiculous weather out there, we had to be outside and near water. So beach volleyball was perfect. And I had a really high vertical from my basketball career. So I kind of slid into volleyball really easy. And then, like I said, my friend took me snowboarding one night and I moved to Whistler 6 months later. And I was like, why the hell have I not been enjoying wintertime? Because I just hated it when I lived there, because winter was terrible and I just didn't have anything that excited me. And so snowboarding was it. So it took me to Whistler, and I lived in Whistler for 5 years. And if anyone's lived in Whistler for 5 years, they know how hard it is on your body. And I broke a lot of bones. I've had, now to date, I've had 6 major surgeries, broken 9 bones, and I kind of had to get out of there, or I was going to come out of there in a body bag, you know? So I left there, and then I got into bodybuilding for quite a bit. And while I was there, there was a studio. This was at Olympic Gym. I had been to a few other gyms, but the last gym was Olympic Gym, and there was a yoga studio in there. And so on my 40th birthday, I decided, I'm so tight and so messed up, I'm going to take a yoga class. So I took a yoga class, and I went from 1 class a week to 3 classes a week to 5 classes a week. And it was amazing. And it took me 3 years to get off sitting on 2 blocks just to cross my legs. I was really messed up. I could hardly even reach past my knees, but I was really strong. So I could do really funky, like, arm balances and stuff like that right away, which really excited me. And the teacher didn't show up one day. And I said to the class, I said, well, we came here to stretch. You guys want me to run you through what I do? Because I had taught basketball, I had taught volleyball, I had taught bodybuilding. And so they're like, sure. So I taught this class that I didn't even know what I was doing, but I taught this class. And at the end of the class, 3 of the girls came up to me and they said, you should be doing this. So I went, okay. And so I kind of put that in the back seat. And then another friend of mine showed up to teach the class as a sub. And he sat in the front of the room and he says, "I'm the most unflexible yoga teacher you'll ever meet." And that was the best thing I could have heard, because well, it was probably like 6 months later. He says, "Do you want to teach my class?" And this is a long time ago when you didn't even need a 200-hour certificate to teach yoga. And so I was teaching this class at Kit's Workout, where Kit's Y Yoga is right now. And in a real short time, I had probably 35 people in my class on average. And so I realized I was in the right spot. I just had to get my training and I had to get my knowledge up. And there we go, 18 years later. It's what I do. I've created a clothing line that kind of complements my stuff, because I used to have a clothing store back in Ontario that was called California Coast. And so I like fashion, but I hated being in the store. So uh, Lululemon is pretty much all you got for guys. And now they have more stuff out there. But all the stuff that Lululemon offered, I liked it, but I didn't really like it at the same time. So I would bring stuff home, and I had a little bit of a sewing ability. So I would tweak all my stuff that I brought home, and then I'd wear it to class all changed. And so people were like, "Where did you get that?" And I'm like, "Well, I kind of made it." And then so that got the clothing involved in it. And then everything else that I had done over the years gets all encapsulated in yoga retreats. And so I did 10 retreats in Tofino, and then I found Nicaragua, and that's my place. So every year in November, I go to Nicaragua, and this will be year 7 in Nicaragua, and it is everything that I'm all about, pretty much.
I gotta learn. I want to learn more about that for me
Yeah,
personally.
yeah. I'm a snowboarder that really wants to be a surfer.
Yeah, yeah,
But I
man.
really suck at surfing still, and I've been at it for a long time. I did my first surf ever on my 30th birthday. So the big birthdays are seem to be where I do a big shift, and I'm going to be 60 pretty soon.
Yeah,
So I'm ready for another shift.
I hear you, man. I agree with it. Definitely 40 was a big pivot for me. I turned 50 this year and I can feel something stirring.
Nice.
Um, man, you shared so much so fast. I'm like, okay, process. Do you know Jeff McKenzie then?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I know
Yep.
Jeff. I know
Yeah. Yeah.
Jeff.
Jeff. Well, he has his brotherhood.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's where I
Uh,
met him, was through that. And then he happened to
yes.
be up in Kelowna this past summer, and I finally got to meet him face to face, because
Yeah.
obviously I live not in Vancouver. So that was kind of cool to meet somebody online.
Yeah. He's a phenomenal Ashtanga teacher. He's probably
Is
the
he?
the most knowledgeable Ashtanga teacher that I've come across
Cool.
in my travels. And one of the style of yoga that I teach is called rocket yoga, and
Yeah.
it's based from Ashtanga yoga. I call it playful rocket, or playful Ashtanga.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can also relate to, finding yoga. I think I was 40, and I'm not as into it as you are, but
Hmm.
going from sore back, waking up, can't even get out of bed, to, 3 months of doing yoga at a studio, and then I do a little practice every morning,
Hmm.
and I feel freaking fantastic.
Nice.
Like my body basically never aches. So
Yeah.
to the men listening, you need to do yoga. I believe
Yeah.
that strongly. I
Yeah.
think there's a longevity of life and quality of life component to it, not especially, but if you're an athlete and you have nagging injuries, you can get a lot out of it, I think.
Oh, it's incredible. I mean, I really come at it from the athlete. So the majority of people that follow me are more on the A type side. They've been through their sports and they've had all their damage, and they realize that they like the way that sports is all regimented, and how you have to, like, my main thing I talk about is practice makes progress. So you got to do the work to get the results, and that's how I teach yoga, and I really teach to heal. So my classes are not easy, but they work. And usually the people that find me stick with me for quite a while.
Cool.
Yeah.
I have heard sometimes in yoga, and when somebody new is introduced to a yoga practice, that there can have like emotional releases too. Have you
Oh, enormous. You
really?
actually store. It's like your body is kind of like a storage locker for emotions. So
Yes.
you could I got many stories about that, but I was in a class once and I was talking about how guys uh, generally store their emotions in the front of their hips, their chest, their low back, and their shoulders. And so I was talking to this one guy, and he looked at me so seriously. He was like, "What emotions?" And I just started laughing. I'm like, "Dude, well, you're probably the guy that needs this more
He,
than anyone right now." And you find you'll get into some poses, and you'll see people all of a sudden go into a child's pose or just kind of roll up, and something released big time.
yeah, that's what I've
And
heard.
yeah, and I really like to notice stuff like that and let them know that that was a really good thing. It wasn't your, you should be ashamed that you're crying or something. You should be stoked that you've released something. And
Fuck
we
yeah.
want to release more stuff together. And I want to be the guy that's guiding you to release these things. So if you're crying like every third or fourth class and you just released all this stuff and you leave like with this massive weight off your shoulder, I did my job.
So is your classes attracting men and women?
Totally. Yeah. I mean,
So
yoga is like 80% women anyways, just in general, but I have a lot of classes that there's more guys than girls.
wow.
Yeah.
I mean, you do live in Vancouver too, so that
Yeah.
definitely plays a part in guys being. So
Yeah.
when these guys have emotional releases, what is their reaction to it?
Uh initially initially some of them are ashamed and want to like kind of tuck away, but when they realize, they have a couple of these and they realize that, whoa, I just released a whole bunch of stuff. Like I purposely watch shows to cry.
Yeah.
So that's kind of in our whole concept of what we're about here today as well. But like I'm a massive RuPaul's Drag Race fan,
Yeah.
and I've learned more from watching that show than any other television or any other thing that I've ever done in my life. Like my partner and I are so religious about watching that show that it's kind of ridiculous. I could talk about it forever. And so that's the thing that I go to when I need emotional release.
Really?
And there's another show called We're Here. The two of them, if you need to have a good cry, those are the ones, man. And you don't have to be gay. You don't have to be,
No. Fuck no.
you just have to watch these. And he has now, he's about to retire, but he now has his show in like 20 plus different countries. He's won best talk show for the last 6 years now. And I've learned more from that dude than anybody in my life. Like he knows how to
Interesting.
tap into people's emotions and bring it out and bring out the best in people and make them and challenge the shit out of them. Like the stuff that he has those queens do every week
Mm,
and they pull it off. It's incredible. Like,
hmm.
yeah, there's nothing on TV where you have to be a seamstress, a comedian, a dancer, a singer, an actor, a host, a makeup artist,
There's a
you know?
lot of shadow parts of yourself you got to face to pull
Totally.
that off.
Totally. And you have to expose all
Yes.
your flaws and be okay with that and have people ridicule you over and over and over to make you better and be okay with that. And just like I say in class a lot of the times, yoga and surfing are the two things that took my ego and just kicked it to crap, you know? Like, and
So before you found yoga, what was your emotional state? What was your access to your own emotions?
I was a very yeah. I would have to say once I found sports and I realized that I could excel and be like the guy or whatever. Uh, it's changed the way I viewed my existence almost. You know, initially I was really shy and uh, I didn't realize that I had skills like that I could excel at. And then once I found this, and once I found that I could do it in multiple different sports, it changed a lot. And then I grew all this confidence to a ridiculous point. You know, when you're in your 20 years old or 21, you know everything. No one's going to tell you what to do. You're the best. You're this. You're this. So I went through all that because I got really good at stuff really fast. Like I went from basketball to volleyball and I was a pro in 2 years, you know,
Yeah.
and then I learned how to snowboard and on my third year, I was competing in a pro border cross race.
Yeah, that's
And,
nuts.
and so it builds a lot of confidence, but it's also face value too, you know,
What do you
it's
mean by
good.
that? Face value.
It's, uh, surface, you know, like it's
Yeah.
more ego driven than anything. You know, I found that like I was living up of like I still to this day like look at me, look what I can do, blah blah blah. Like even here I've been like I can do this and this and this and this and this and this, and that's always like the first thing that I try and not do as I get older, but it's the hardest thing because you
Okay,
were
so let's hit a reset. Let's hit a reset if you're up for a
okay.
challenge.
Yeah,
You up for a challenge?
sure.
So give me a different story on who's Risto Duggan from like a soul level.
Ooh, that's very uh very kinesthetic, I would say. I have to be moving to retain anything. I was never a scholar, so I needed to move to get any information from stuff or retain anything. So I was never school was not my thing. Uh, yeah, but I did like I said like moving and that just seemed to uh, work for me the best. If there was something I had to do and retain stuff, there had to be some kind of movement. That's where I also was a dancer for a lot of years and an actor for a lot of years as well. And the only way I could retain anything was through repetition and movement. Even when I was learning my lines as an actor, I had to walk somewhere, or my first line was over here, my second line was over here, my third line was over here. So there had to be some kind of movement for me to retain anything. So as far as scholarly life, uh, I'm not that guy.
Does that bother you?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Why?
yeah. I wish I did work on that skill a little bit more. Uh, once I found out that I was this athlete, I basically said screw school. I'm just going to be a jock, you know. And even when I went to university, I was the top recruit out of my city, and I went to university, and then I realized I'm only here to please my dad, you
Yeah,
know.
you said something in your Shadow and Lights interview. It said that in there, and I was
Yeah,
curious on that whole thing because you shared quite a bit on like it looked like you were just trying to please your dad.
100%. Yeah, yeah. Like all through my youth, he was this businessman, and he was also very fashion driven, and he also his hobby was gardening. So those were the kind of things. And now I have flowers all over my body, tattooed. But yeah, he wanted me to be this businessman. So he's like, you got to get to university and you got to do this and blah 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 blah. And then I went to university and I was like, am I supposed to hate this and still do it? You know? And then I even the basketball. I got in the basketball team, and Canadian university basketball is very different than what I wanted it to be. So I went there, and by January I was done. So
Mm.
I was the January dropout. I got there and I was like, okay, I'm here for basketball. I'm not here for any of my classes. What is the point of me doing this? You know?
And how did your dad react to that?
Oh, he was mortified. Yeah. Yeah, I was like the big disappointment. And
Do you have siblings?
yeah, brother and sister. My sister is 11 years older than me, and my brother's 8 years older than me. And my sister kind of like was my I had my mom, my sister, and my aunt living with me as I grew up. So I had three moms. So
That must have
needless
been
to say,
wild.
I was the youngest, and I was spoiled rotten. I could I could get away with anything. I also knew how to manipulate my parents like crazy. I got
L-
really good at that kind of stuff as well.
Looking back, would you have liked more boundaries and more structure?
Totally. Yeah. Yeah.
That
Yeah. My
seems
mom
to
was
be
incredible. But yeah, my dad was pretty laid back with as far as discipline went, but he definitely voiced his opinion on what he wanted me to be.
why do you think
And
you wanted to be those things?
yeah, and that was the completely opposite of what I was. And then when I found basketball, I my best friend who basically got me into basketball was this guy named Dayton Warner, and his family, super dark black guy. His family was amazing, and he was a amazing at school and computers. His sister was a fashion designer in New York City. Both his brothers were incredible basketball players and computer wizards. His father was a principal, and they took me in as like I was one of their kids. It was so crazy. And Dayton and his brothers and sisters, they taught me basically the entire black culture, and I learned so much from them. And I realized that like I used to make jokes that I was black on the inside because everything that I loved kind of went into what the black culture was all about. So I became a DJ and a dancer and a basketball player. And my dad,
They have more soul.
oh my God, it was crazy. Like I learned what funk was. I learned the origin of rap. I when I was a DJ, I played R&B grooves and disco house. And this was a long time ago, but yeah, I've done a lot of things here and
And
there.
you
But
said
they
your dad didn't really approve of that friendship,
no,
eh?
my parents were raised in Halifax initially, and that was like the last segregated place in Canada. And so they
Huh.
were very very racist without really knowing it. And so they had that. There was always yeah, there was always slurs and hacks on minorities that weren't us, you know. And I always was like, why? Like I never felt good about it. And then I found myself doing stuff like saying stuff like that because that's what I was taught, you know. and and then I made some stupid comment, and I was so embarrassed, and I was like, don't you ever do anything like that ever again. And then I would constantly bring my friends home, and Dayton and Francis and all these black dudes would come home, and my first girlfriend was Japanese, my second girlfriend was black, my good friend was East Indian. So I just kept bringing different minorities home all the time, and just like, see, you know, like, don't be so. I was so frustrated with all that all through my youth, and they changed their tune over the years. But
That's good.
yeah, and my dad just wanted me to be a hockey player, and so I played hockey just to please him, and I freaking hated it. I thought it was not my thing.
Is
And
your
then
dad's
and
is your dad still here?
no, no, he passed away a long time ago. Yeah, both mom and dad are gone.
Hmm.
But yeah, my mom almost made 90, and my dad almost made 60. So again, another 10-year big thing.
Yeah.
But yeah,
What
yeah, it was.
what did your dad like when you were younger? He sounds like a fascinating dude, actually. Like to
Yeah.
have, his hobbies were not kind of what you would say were masculine. Would you describe him as a masculine guy? How would you in
Yeah. There's one moment that this is big share here, but my mom told me on my 18th birthday, or when I was 18, that she had a dream one night, and they were in Florida. They used to go to Florida all the time, just like Vancouver people would go down to California or
Mhm.
Oregon. Ontario people go to Florida. So she said she had this dream, and they were at their place in Florida. They used to go to Florida all the time, and he was all done up in his outfits, like he was decked out all the time. And she looked at him. They used to call each other Luch and Lucci. And she looked at him, and she's like, Lucci, look at you. You're so dressed up, and you almost look like you were gay. And he turned and looked at her, and he said, I am, in the dream. And my mom's told me, she goes, and I believe it. So that was a bit of a heavy.
You just fucking blew my mind. And
Yeah. Yeah, that was a bit of a
here's
heavy hit.
here's why it blows my mind. I'm like, I have a belief, and I have data to back it up, my own data, that all humans have an element of bisexuality. You can't
Oh
fucking
my
tell
God,
me
100%.
differently. You
I've been
can't
saying
tell
it.
me differently.
I've been saying it my whole life. I think there's two spectrums. There's male and female, masculine, feminine. You're on one of them, on the two, and once everyone figures it out, all this crazy shit is going to be gone. But it's going to take a long time. That's
Well,
how I've always felt. I
what
felt
I've
like that for
seen,
a lot of years.
what I've seen is men's sexual shadow quite often includes some men in there. Like they're ashamed that they might be attracted to men.
Hmm.
And I say this not that they are, going to leave their wife for and become gay. It's just they can't accept that maybe they're bi, or maybe they have a curiosity.
Hmm.
In my experience, curiosity doesn't mean you have to how do I even word that?
You don't have to act on it. You
You
can just
don't
feel
have
it.
to act on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just because you're
But
curious doesn't mean that,
yeah.
you don't like women. I
But
find it
what
a
if
very fascinating topic.
yeah, what if there was no gay, straight, trans? There was just sexuality.
I agree with you. But it's a
You know?
extremely hard concept for people to get out of the
Yeah.
binary of black and white, right and wrong,
Yeah.
straight or gay.
Yeah. I mean, I had someone in my past that I was crazy for. And that's something I don't want to reveal here, but I was crazy for him. And it's always been in my head. And then, like, and so I've always been attracted to that type of person. And I've always like knew that was an attraction, but I also was attracted to a different type of female as well. And so I would date females because that's what we're supposed to do, you know.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of girlfriends, but I was never. I mean, probably the last girlfriend that I dated, I was in love with for real, and other ones I was just like, into because we were dating. But yeah, I always knew that I was definitely more on the male masculine side
Yeah.
as opposed to attraction.
It's so, man, I don't know where to take this, to be honest, because
Yeah.
it's a huge topic that,
Yeah.
most of my listeners are probably heterosexual, but they need to look at this stuff. Like, if you identify as a male who's masculine, heterosexual, you need to address this part of your shadow. I guarantee you got something that you're ashamed of that you never told anybody, hiding in the
Hmm.
closet.
Hmm.
Like you said, you never have to act on it. You can just go, wow, I had this fucked up, or that's labeling it. I
Yeah.
had this thought or this fantasy. and
Yeah.
I feel ashamed about it.
Yeah.
Guess what? You're a fucking human being, and
Yeah.
it is very normal, and it's never talked about.
Yeah. And then when you get into like the party life, when you see people, all their inhibitions go down, you always see a different side. I mean, I was a bartender for a lot of years, so I saw people in a lot of different scenarios. And then I was into like the rave scene as well for a while. And when you put ecstasy on top of the thing and have people react in that realm,
Mm-hmm.
there's a different person that comes out too, right? And all those kind of walls and those barriers and those parameters seem to like fall away a little bit, and they can just relax and be comfortable with, the surround whoever's around.
Why do you think, from your perspective and the life you've lived and the wisdom and knowledge you have, that societally it seems to be more acceptable for women to be bisexual and not as acceptable? And I'm air quoting that because I understand it is expanding and it is becoming more
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
acceptable, but blue collar, middle age man is like not going to want to accept that he may have bisexual tendencies.
Yeah,
Why do you think that is? Why do you think men resist that more?
I think women are way more involved or way more evolved, and they're fine with showing that side of them. And even like porn, straight porn, it's okay for you to see two women together, like it's a turn on. But straight porn, having two guys in the thing is ooh, you know, and that might not be ooh, but they have to say it's ooh,
They have to say it's ooh.
you
Yeah.
know, you know.
Oh, dude, I know. I overhear conversations of, guys joking about, "Oh, you're gay. No, you're gay." I'm like, why are you guys even like bantering that way? Like,
Yeah,
it really, to me, shows there's like this hidden part in their subconscious that they don't want to acknowledge, or
yeah,
they do occasionally get turned on by another man
yeah.
and they're like, what the fuck was that? And
Oh,
instead of like just accepting it, it gets
yeah,
labeled.
yeah. I always had these feelings, and when I was in Whistler, there was a gay ski week was the event there, and they had uh, the main event the Saturday night. It was called Snowball, and so they all went into the conference center in Whistler, and there was like over 2,000 people in this event, mostly guys, and all the restaurant people knew that it was going to be an amazing event. So all the restaurant people would go and they would take up like a spot. So all the crew, they would all be dancing because the energy was incredible. Like it was amazing. And so I went there to my first one because I only knew gay people as super feminine and fluffy, and I didn't really know anything about the masculine gay guys or the bears or the muscle bears or whatever. And then I went to this event and there was like 2,200 people there, and like 800 of them were off the fireman's calendar. And I'm looking around the room, I'm like, wow, okay, well that just changes my whole view on what's gay and what's straight, you know. It was like, okay. And then I came out shortly after that, and I met my husband like 6 months after that, and we've been together now for 26 years now.
Wow.
So yeah, it was quite the flip. And and just to go even more bizarre on that, I left Whistler as this alcoholic snowboarder. I stopped drinking and I came to Vancouver, came out, met my husband, and then I was dancing with drag queens for a lot, a lot. I ended up working with drag queens. They were called the House of Venus, and I worked with them, and I did a lot of shows as a backup dancer for drag queens, and it got so far as to the spot where I was choreographing the piece, hiring the dancers, making the stage, doing the makeup. And yeah, it was pretty there was so many times, like, I can't even tell you, where I go, okay, here we go again, like doing something that you would never imagine doing, and all of a sudden they're like, okay, here's your outfit you're wearing today, and like, okay, here we go. And just a blast. And I got such a amazing respect for the art of drag
Mm.
and the comedy, and what it takes to overcome all the stuff. I mean, you look at what's happening now, and everyone's freaking out about it, is because it's finally being exposed and it's finally becoming the norm, which it should be. But the right winger, rah guys just don't want to accept it.
Yeah, I got two questions that are percolating. One is
Okay.
which one to ask first? Yes, I do.
Mhm.
You said women seem to be more open to their bisexuality or their potential
Mhm.
bisexuality because they're more evolved. What do you
Mhm.
mean by evolved?
Uh, more open to being intimate with friends, people they associate with. You know,
Hmm.
like they'll just more cuddly and more, just safer being together with same sex people, as opposed to guys are really really afraid of it. You know,
Yeah. Why do you think they're afraid of it?
just because it is it is so taboo. I mean, you look at the Bible, like you know, like how much of the Bible, and then you find out that the uh, initially, the when it was interpreted, all the passages in the Bible that are about same-sex relationships were not about that. They were about sodomy. They were about men having sex with boys. It wasn't men having sex with men. It was men having sex with boys, and then it was reinterpreted as this homosexual thing that was taboo. And
Hmm.
what it was initially was taboo for men to have sex with boys, which,
Oh,
of
it's
course,
obvious.
yes, yeah. And so, and that's happened in all of them,
Hmm.
weirdly enough. So, how did that not get exposed? And how did that become the cornerstone of hate? And like, it's so crazy how you know and
It
I think
is.
we're going through some crazy times now, where we feel like we're going back, but I actually think that we're going back to go forward.
I would tend to agree.
You know,
How have you found the straightest, most blue collar guy reacts to you personally?
uh, I think I think the way that I approach my life is I don't make a big deal of it, and I think that makes it more accepted.
Fucking love the simplicity of that. So when you see somebody being really flamboyant over the top and kind of look at me, I'm gay, what does that bring up in you?
Now it means I want to meet that dude. That guy's that means that that guy has overcome so much shit to be himself, that I want to meet that guy. That guy is like way stronger than the macho guy benching 3 plates in the gym and flexing. He's way more evolved. I just talk about Reed and I, my partner, just like anyone else would talk about anybody else, and I don't make a big deal about it. I don't flaunt I'm gay in class. That's just what I am. And even that, like, I don't even feel I even need to say that word, because it doesn't matter. you know it's just like, oh, he's attracted more to men than women. Big deal.
Has it always been like that for you?
uh Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've always thought that the gay straight thing. I mean, I never acted on the gay thing until later on in my life, but yeah, I've always felt that I was attracted to a specific look initially, and then that's expanded a little bit more over the years. But yeah.
I find, why I have respect for gay men is that you're being as authentic as you know how to be. And
Hmm.
you've had to face some shit to be your authentic self, knowing mainstream society might ridicule you.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting because I just did a retreat and I was a facilitator there, and something came
Hmm.
up 2 weeks previous where somebody taught me that the vibration, the frequency of authenticity is actually 4 times stronger than love. Because normally we would think, oh, love is the most powerful state of being, I'll just call it.
Hmm.
And they actually said, no, it's authenticity. I'm like, fuck, I really like that because
Hmm.
it makes sense
Hmm.
to me. When you
Hmm.
meet somebody that's just authentic,
Yeah.
one of two things happens in my experience. A person is either attracted and leans in, I want to know this person, or their authenticity scares the living shit out of you
Totally.
because you either
Totally.
have to be authentic and meet them where they're at,
Yeah.
or it just shows you that you're not being that. And that's
Mm.
why I find the gay community so fucking authentic.
Yeah. Yeah. And in the past, I mean, I'm just finding this out more and more now, but in the like way back in history, trans people were the top.
Really?
Yeah, trans people were the like the elite. They had overcome so much stuff that yeah, they were like in I think it was a Hawaiian culture initially. I heard about, but yeah, they were no indigenous. The indigenous tribe, the trans people were the top of the tier,
I
and then it
have heard something about that with indigenous cultures. I can't
yeah.
remember what. I might have to look into it after this. I'm
Yeah,
actually super
the two
curious.
spirited
Two spirited.
people. Yeah, the
Yes,
two
two
spirited
spirited.
people were the most knowledgeable, most real.
Most
They were like
real.
yeah, they were like the people that were, you know, that who you'd want to go to find answers, I guess.
Yeah, because they've had to tear down all the barriers.
Yeah, they've had to come out 3 different times. So
I
you
had
think
a
about
I had a
how much shit you have to do. Like I have trans people in my class and I love it. You know.
trans man client, and I already knew this person, which is why I was able to take them on as a client. And the shit I had to face because they're of a religious background, and then they just blew up everything I thought I knew. It's all complete bullshit. And the more I
Right.
got to know them, I'm
Yeah.
like, motherfucker, like
Yeah.
you're a badass motherfucker for being authentic.
Yeah. Dude, you got to watch RuPaul's Drag Race.
I have. I
You got
just
to like,
not in a
yeah,
long time.
yeah, yeah. You got to like, yeah, sit into it. And We're Here. You got to watch that show. Oh my God,
Yeah,
man.
I'm gonna message you about that one because I'm gonna forget the title of it.
Yeah, you're gonna learn a lot about just humanity. It's crazy. So the concept of We're Here is they go to the southern states that are super right wing, and they put a few people in drag in the town, and the whole town freaks out. All the right wingers freak out, and all the closeted people, the gay people that have been
Mm.
hidden, get to finally come out and be seen. And by the end of the week that they were there, they've just completely blown people's minds apart. Like it's amazing. And then whether the person that they're putting in drag is trans or straight, There's a lot of straight guys that do it just to say they did it, and be an ally, and how they react through the whole process. And then of course the main drag queens, they have their whole entourage that come in who are the best of the best. So when they put them in drag, it's elite level. So they
Interesting.
get
Yeah,
to
I want to
feel what
watch
it's
it.
all about to be at this highest level, and then you see how the whole town reacts, and it just exposes all the morons, and it exposes all the beautiful people, and it's really, yeah, if you want a good cry, that's your show, man. And when you have a good cry, how much weight comes off your shoulders. it's
Yeah,
it's
crying
it's
is there's a whole nother podcast that might need to happen, because even crying is not what people think it is.
Yeah,
The chemical compound of your tears is different
yeah,
based on what you're crying about.
yeah,
It's not just about sadness or grief. There's a spectrum of crying
yeah,
that men need to fucking embrace, because
totally.
you are holding yourself back
Yeah,
from being, if this speaks to you, from being the most masculine motherfucker you've ever been. You got to cry to access that. You just
exactly.
have to.
Yeah,
It's not like how many plates you're bench pressing. That's complete
yeah,
good for you for taking care of your body, but
exactly.
that doesn't equal masculine. I just,
No,
at
no,
the
no.
retreat I was at, I had 20 guys in a circle. Um, Took them deep. I had 20 guys crying at the same time. And there's
Hmm.
a energy in that is so fucking healing
Yeah.
for everybody there.
Hmm.
And these
Yeah,
were
they.
guys that are working out, and I think that's rad. Like, you should.
Yeah.
But hey, guess what? There's this other layer hiding that you can probably only access through crying.
Hmm. Hmm. And it's cathartic. Like, it's very good. Yeah, the girl that I had the clothing store with, and I was kind of dating her as well at the time. She was a healer as well, and she did lomi lomi massage from Hawaii. She learned it from a Hawaiian master, and she came over to my place and she gave me one of the lomi lomi massages. And I was in this I was in our house, but there was another place above, and I was just letting it go. And she was telling me all the people that were in the room and everything, and I was just going, and then all of a sudden I felt like, oh, I'm exposing too much, and all my walls went up like right away. And then she went, oh, we're done. And then she said, she goes, so I hope you learn from this that if you feel like you're going to break down and let it go, if you feel guilty about it, put a pillow over your face and let it go,
Yeah.
because it's really, really important. Yeah. Yeah, I remember I came home from one of the performances that I did, and I worked my ass off to do this, because I had to teach the choreography to the drag queen. I had to teach the choreography to the dancers, hire the dancers, do everything, blah 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 blah. And when I finished the thing, it came off so well that I had to leave there and come home and cry. I was like, I got to get out of here, because I'm going to fall apart right now, because I just put everything I could possibly put into this thing, and it freaking killed.
Yeah.
But I can't handle it. I can't handle it with you guys right now. So I have to go home and deal with this. So I came home and I like lied on my kitchen floor with a pillow over my face, and I bawled for 15, 20 minutes, and I left and I was like, woohoo, I did it. Yeah.
Yeah. Those tears it's just an emotional release. It's how your body
Hmm.
moves the energy. Man, I
Yeah.
wish more men understood that. And we're
Yeah.
working on it.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
title of that's the title of this show, right?
Totally. Totally.
Man, I'm watching the time, and I could talk to you for another hour, no problem, but we're gonna wrap it up, and I got two questions for you.
Okay.
What message do you have for 12-year-old Risto?
I found out that as a yoga teacher, the more you do you, the more people want to be around you. So worry less about trying to please people or follow the norm or the box, and do what is like authentically inside you that makes you happy and turns you on, whether it's scary or not. Fucking do it. Like what do you really want to do? Then get all those guidance and paths in that on that road to make that happen, because that's where you're going to be the happiest. And happiness is way more important than a bunch of money, and your health way more important than a bunch of money. So many people out there, they just kill themselves to drive a Lexus and have a condo in the sky, and if you're not healthy, and you're not happy, does it matter?
What message do you have for heterosexual men about their sexuality? Let's tack that on.
About their sexuality, just be open to being kind to everybody. You know, like I close my classes, like try and respect and be kind to everybody. That's what I say at the end of every one of my yoga classes, because it's such a simple thing, and it could be that simple. You know, like, why hate things that you know nothing about? Like, over COVID, I had so many people that I would get into these conversations about, you know, how like they're trying to uh, move the guns killing kids to drag queens affecting kids, and they're like, get over yourself, man. Like, you know, it's about the guns. It ain't about some drag queen. There's no sexual thing coming from a drag queen about kids, like zero. It's so crazy. And then I have all these people, they would come back and they'd be like, yeah, but what about this? And I'm like, do you know any drag queens? And they always say no. And I'm like, shut up. You know, it's like,
Yeah,
yeah,
I get it.
it's like you have no say. You don't even know these people, and then you're telling us what they're doing. You
yeah,
don't
I'd,
know them.
I'd tack on, like, have the courage to get curious.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe you should meet them because they're awesome.
And
You
then
know?
and then let's have another chat.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. I had a super long conversation with these two dudes on set, and we were talking music and everything, and he was like, and then he pointed out this super feminine guy on set, and he's just like, yeah, well, I know that you're gay because we've been talking for a while, but you're not like that guy over there. And I'm like, have you met that guy? He's like, no. And I'm like, you should. He's freaking hilarious. And then he kind of went, whoa, you know, it kind of slapped him across the head, because he was, you know, it was good. It was good. It was a good moment. I went, well, instead of hating that guy that you've never met, maybe go over and say hi, introduce yourself. And maybe he's some guy that's going to teach you a freaking ton.
He's a human first.
Exactly.
His
Exactly.
preferences have nothing to do with his humanness.
Exactly. And whether someone's feminine or masculine, who cares? You know?
Yeah,
Like,
man. Risto, this was fantastic. I'm so
thanks.
honored you said yes. Would love to get to know you outside of this podcast.
Hmm.
Thanks for being here, and I can't wait to share it with everyone.
Yeah. Yeah. And come see me at Stretch. Anybody that's hearing this and wants to explore the yoga world, I'd love to see you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll drop contact for you if you want in the show
Hmm.
description, Risto, so they can find you.
Hmm.
Okay,
Awesome.
thank you.
Thanks, brother.
Thanks for taking the time to be here today. I honestly hope you found something you can use in your life. And I hope you found some relief in knowing that you're not the only one with challenges. We can be very isolated as men. If you don't have support in your life, please reach out to someone. It's okay to need help. It doesn't mean that you're less of a man. In fact, it takes a courageous man to know when it's time to ask for guidance. Until next time, brother.